If you're watching this video, it's because you need to know how to make a pros and a cons list for a debate. First things first, preparing for the debate speech, part 1. You have to understand how debates work. You'll be given a debate topic, which you've already chosen, and this is called a resolution. Your team must take a stance either for or against that resolution. Sometimes you'll be given the stance, and sometimes you will be asked to take a position. Either one of those can happen when we go through Blackfish. You may be asked to be the first speaker pro the resolution or the first con speaker. I'll decide when I pull the name out of the hat. That means you'll need to be prepared to be the speaker at any time. The speakers then present arguments against the earlier pro or con speech that was just read. You have to listen carefully and be able to counter any argument you're given. There are often segments involving crossfire in which the debaters are allowed to ask questions and openly debate the topic. Sometimes there is a second round, so make sure you're listening to what points have already been made so that you can have the end of your debate sound correct. Now, I'm not going to talk about what is a credible source. In this video, you'll need to go to the other video for that, credible sources. But let's talk about part 2, because before you can start an outline, you have to do this part. You have to be able to research the topic very thoroughly with credible information, because you will be asked to counter the argument from the other side in addition to giving a speech of your own. You have to spend time thoroughly understanding all aspects of any resolution, both for and against. So you and your team need to be brainstorming the topic and research it before you sit down to write it together. Each member could discuss the pro and the cons list if you wanted to, or you could separate it 50-50 as I've already explained. Then you strike the weaker reasons until you are left with 3 or 4 reasons that seem strongest in support or opposition. You're going to spend some time at the library, or in this case, on the internet in my classroom, using only credible sources to research your key reasons that seem the strongest. Make sure you're using scholarly journals, credible newspapers, etc. Be very cautious about unverified information bandied about on the internet. Wikipedia is bad. You will also want to deal with the strongest arguments on the other side in your speech. Ignoring the other side's best arguments can weaken your rhetorical appeal. So everybody should have a statement, or what has been referred to as a resolution. So my statement or my resolution is jogging is good for you. It's a statement. It should never have a question mark. Next, after the statement, you and your team need to decide if you are for or against it. If you believe this is true, then you are for it. If you believe it to be false, then you are against it. Make sure you circle one on your... Once you've done that, you need to have supporting reasons. This is where the pros and cons list comes in. So, now I'm on my pros and cons. I have jogging. I need to have the pros of jogging as well as the cons. You can see I have healthy, cardiovascular system strengthened, muscles stronger, lower cholesterol, improved lung capacity, and I can keep going and going and going. You should have several supporting statements. Okay, so now that I have the pros done, I have to think about some cons. So if you've gotten on a lot of credible sources and you have been looking, then you have already probably found some cons. So for the purpose of time, knee joint replacements are higher if you run a lot. Shin splints, the occurrence of that happening, higher. Deadly. What if I have something like Marfan syndrome? It could be deadly for me to go jogging depending on if I have a heart condition or not. So these are all the things that you need to consider for pros and cons and what you would argue. The next thing you would do, because of your research, you would come through and you'd say, what are my strongest points? Well, I would circle those. And as you can see, I decided on these three: cardiovascular system, lower cholesterol, and improved lung capacity. That's how you do a pros and cons list. That comes before the outline, as well as before and during research.